is the installation video for the Summit HD CNC Shuttle. First off, I'd like to say thank you for purchasing our product and your support. Very much appreciated. Before we get started, just go over a few tools that you'll need. You won't need much. Screwdrivers, some basic tools. I'm using an electric screwdriver, not an impact. I don't recommend using an impact on anything. Nothing needs to be that tight. Electric screwdriver just is easier on your wrist. So you can either use that or just a regular screwdriver. None of these screws are more difficult to remove either way. You'll need some form of Phillips screwdriver. You'll need a stubby Phillips screwdriver. I'll show you why in a minute. Most likely a razor knife to cut insulation on the harness from Garmin or Rance. Wire strippers of some kind, wire cutters, and then a 5/16 socket. Deep well socket. So we'll get started. When you receive the shuttle, it's fully assembled. In order to get to the harness or any of the mounting hardware, you need to remove the front panel. So we'll do that right now. Remove the 4 screws on the front panel. See, this is the wiring harness that we supply, and then your mounting hardware for all of the electronics. And we'll go over that, what each screw and washer is used for here in a minute. Okay, so the first step, after you remove the front cover, you'll want to remove the battery bracket. There's 2 screws. Put that, set it aside. We have the battery bracket out. We'll be able to put our battery in, but before we do our battery, we have to put our module on the back. So the module will either be the Garmin GLS-10 or the Rance Active Target module. Humminbird doesn't use an external module. But to do that, the module mounts on the back, connectors pointing up. The screws go in from the inside out. You'll slip a washer and then a nylock nut on. And I will do that right now. From our hardware bag, we will take 2 of the screws. The screws are all the same size. They are number 6 by 1.25 inch hand heads. Take our GLS-10 module and get on the back. Just the weight of the module hanging on the screws will hold it in place. If not, you can fold it, flip it over on its side and put the screws on that way. But I like to do it this way. Get a couple started, tightened up. For the Garmin GLS-10, you'll use the top set of holes on the back that go through and the bottom set. For the Rance, you'll use the second from the top set of holes and the second from the bottom set of holes. So I've got the 2 top screws finger tight. Now I will take a screw and go in from the inside. And on the bottom left, if you're looking at the front of the shuttle, you'll want to put the screw in and make sure that the head goes through the recess that we have in the pocket for the battery. Then take a washer. And on that. Another screw through bottom right and washer in the nylon. Then we will tighten all of those nuts up now that we have them all started. Start at the bottom left. And again, I just have a 5/16 socket on a deep socket on my electric screwdriver. Doesn't have to be super tight, and just use the screwdriver to hold the screw and keep it from turning. Okay, now we have the module attached, screws coming in from the front, out the back, washer, and nylock. Very simple. Lowrance back to target module mounts the same way. Next, we will install the gimbal. So for this build, I'm using a 126 SV, a Garmin 126 SV. And same concept as the module. The screws go in from the bottom side up through the gimbal. So for the majority of the chart plotters, you'll just mount them in the very first hole in the next set that lines up with your gimbal. In this case, it will be the first and third set of holes. And this is where the stubby screwdriver comes in handy. You'll see why here in a minute. So we're using the same screw, just with a fender washer, just to cover any the larger rounding holes that are on the gimbal, and that's pretty typical. So then last one, so we'll have 4 screws. We'll use the first row and the third row for the majority of the chart plotters, and you can move it forward or back depending on what you're mounting it in. But for the 12-inch in the XL bag, mount it fully forward. That gives you the most ability to tilt. The 10-inch in the large bag also can go in the very first set of holes. So we'll take our stubby from the inside, hold the screw and tighten it up just like the module. So now you have your module, your module attached to the back, your gimbal attached to the top. Now we're ready to start wiring. So the next step, take our battery. This is the Outdoors 48 amp hour. I definitely for a 10-inch, 12-inch chart plotter, you can't go wrong with this 48 amp hour battery. It really is the most powerful battery you'll find. Fits nicely inside. You'll take the battery bracket, again, and it just, there's a cutout in the back of the shuttle that holds the battery in place, keeps it from sliding left to right or up and down. This bracket just keeps it from sliding forward. That's it. Batteries mounted. Now the 48, 30, 32, they all mount the same way, the AMP outdoors batteries. They mount with terminals to the right. So we've got everything prepared, and now we're going to talk about the harnesses. So this is what you would get with the 126 SD. It's full length cable if you used in a boat or whatever. It's way too long to put in the shuttle. Just you want to keep these cables, the power, as short as you possibly can, just so that you minimize clutter inside. It does, even cut as close as you can, it's still somewhat tight in there. So I recommend cutting them down as much as you can. So you'll cut them down, and all we will use is the red and black wires. The blue and brown are communication wires that aren't used for this application. And you can cut this down. I'm not going to do it just for sake of time, but you can cut these down and remove the factory provided fuse. You don't need that. We supply a fuse on our harness. I like to cut these down to about 14 to 15 inches. And just leave the red and black wire and then snip the brown and blue back, just to keep it nice and clean. So I do that for both power cables. This is the power cable for the 126. This is for the GLS-10. You'll have very similar for the Lowrance, and then Hummingbird is the same way. Now there is a all-in-one power cable that you can get from Garmin that simplifies this and provides you with a cable that is already cut down and it's already spliced, so you only have basically a red and a black to deal with instead of two reds and two blacks. It's a nice way to go if you want to preserve your longer cables for use on a boat or some other application where you need a longer cable. We'll go over that briefly at the end of this video to show you the differences. It hooks up just basically the same way, but it is just slightly different. Okay. So the next step, what we do is we'll take our two trimmed down power cables. We'll slip them through. Take our harness and our faceplate, and I'm going to try to explain what each connector is and how to hook this up to make it as simple as it possibly can. And I know that this gets a little bit confusing, but we're going to talk about things from the standpoint of the input and the output. There's one master input that comes from the battery, and then each switch has an output that you connect your devices to. And it can be connected any way that you want. My recommendation is here, where I'll show you how I would recommend connecting them. So you're going to take on the input side, this is the main fuse. This will connect. So I'm using the pigtail that comes with the Amped Outdoors battery. Make sure we get our polarity correct. These are called piggyback terminals. What you'll do is slip that onto each terminal. And what that does is give you a plug to connect to our front panel for charging purposes. And just go down the side. Put it back in a minute. Okay, so now we have our SAE port connected to the battery. At this point, all we need to do is connect our positive to the positive terminal that's on the top of the battery, and then the negative ground wire that's on to the bottom. Get these situated. So again, this connector, it just has the two wires. We're going to refer to that as the input. For the master switch, we're going to call this switch on the right the master switch. So this is the input to the master switch. This is the output of the master switch. The output of the master switch also goes to the second switch. I recommend powering up your electronics from the output of the master switch, and you'll see that here momentarily. So we'll take our cable, want to twist these wires as much as you can, slip them in so there's no strands sticking out, and then close it, and then do the tug test, make sure that it doesn't separate. Do the same. The other power cable, twist. That one. Now the two ground wires, you will connect to the ground connection. Okay. So now you have your grounds and your two red wires for your electronics. And we're going to start pulling these up. So now we're going to get this in a little bit and connect it to the GX10 module back. And this is for the truck plotter, which we will slip. Okay, so now that is both electronics are powered up. Now the last piece of communication wire that you need to connect is the Ethernet cable. Active Target has a similar cable. This from Garmin is a two-piece cable. I try to take it and wrap it up as tightly as I can so it'll fit inside and not be too cumbersome to work around. So I'm going to get this tucked in. 9-pin goes to GLS10, while the big Ethernet jack, RJ45, goes to the chart plotter. This is why you don't want a huge bundle of wires coiled up back there, because it would just make this that much more difficult to get all of your cables that you do need situated. So that slides in and tightens up. So now, the way this is wired, our master power button will turn on the electronics. It will also turn on the power to the second switch, which you can have from the way that we build the harness. It comes wired so that the power for the USB port is only supplied when you press the second button. So it's not on all the time. But you can also use the second switch to power the little light that we sell that screws to the front. So that's that. Now we'll take our positive wire, connect it to the top post of the piggyback terminal, and the negative to the bottom. At that point, wiring's done. You can test it just to make sure. So we're going to turn on our main power. You can see the lights on the switch. Our USB port is not on yet until I press the second switch. Now you see that light on the button comes on and on the USB port. If you used our glow light or the shuttle light, it would work the same way off the second switch. Turn this off. Now, put the front cover back on. So the only other thing that we need to do, now that we have all of our wires routed up through the shuttle, I'm going to make this so you can see it a little bit easier. We need to take these two wires that are going back to the module and secure them. And that is what this wire clamp is for. then snap. And that's it. This is what it should look like. Wiring is nice and clean coming up through here. Then we take your light scope transducer or active target transducer, plug it in here, and then that wraps neatly around the handle. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier, hooking up the system with the Garmin all-in-one cable is essentially the same. Instead of having 4 wires like what we had with using the factory Garmin harnesses that we cut short, we use just 2 wires coming from the Garmin cable. And those 2 wires, I will disconnect them. This is one of our demos. This is the end of the Garmin harness. We cut the spade connectors off, strip back some insulation, and then those go again in the this wire, the red wire, goes in the output side of the master switch, and also ground. The Garmin barrel charging plug really won't be used. There's not a good way to connect it, so it's really not useful for this application. Again, that we have an amped outdoors battery that has the piggyback connector with the SAE cord attached to the front panel. So essentially the same as what I just showed you with the 126, just using the pre-cut harness. Simplifies things a little bit, but it's essentially the same. Connects the same way. Okay, hopefully this answers all of the questions. Again, thank you for your business, and if you have any questions, just get a hold of us through our website, chat, bottom right hand corner.